Welcome back to Simply Fujica, a place for budding and aspiring entrepreneurs. I want to thank you so much for stopping by and tuning into another week here at Simply Fujica. I do want to take the time to remind you that I'm doing my one and only webinar this year on Saturday, October 19th. And I've decided to call it Homecare 101. And the reason why I said that is because I'm including all of the basics that it's taking for you to launch your home care business. So I'm super excited to be providing that, and I really hope that you would sign up. If you're interested in the webinar, the link will be in the video description, so go ahead and check it out. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about billing for non-medical home care agencies. So if that's something that you're interested in, then stay tuned. I want to welcome you back to the second week. Actually, I want to welcome you back to part 2 of our billing conversation. And so if you recall, last week we did 3 tips, and then I gave you an actual example of processing an invoice and sending that invoice to your client. Today I want to actually give you a couple of billing calculations as it relates to you actually billing the client. So let's say that in this example that this client is asking for companion care, and some of that care is going to be on the weekends. Now, I'm definitely not telling you what to do, but typically there's going to be a little bit more of a higher rate for someone who is asking for care on the weekends. However you actually decide to manage your agency and how you bill is up to you. I just want to give you a couple of ideas in terms of how to do that. So let's say that the rate typically is $20 per hour. And of course, that's on a weekday. Now, I just told you a moment ago, well, this person actually wants a little bit of companion care on the weekend too. So for that, we're going to charge this client $25 per hour as a weekend rate. Okay? And again, this is a person who is requesting companion care. Okay? So what is the client's ask? Well, the ask is, I want 3 hours of companion care. That's going to be 5 days a week. Additionally, I need 4 hours on Saturday. This is the client's ask. Okay? So you say, well, Mr. Client, that actually sounds good. So let me tell you how I'm going to bill you for that ask. Okay? In other words, this is your billing calculation. So what that looks like for you as the agency owner is your weekday, and I'm going to do another little tab, your weekday, see if I can spell right, your weekday billable hours is 3 hours per day, 5 days a week. Okay? So when you multiply that, then that gives you a result of 15 hours. Okay? Now, on the weekend, we know the weekend billable hours was just that Saturday, right? So it's going to be 4 hours on Saturday. So what that looks like, and I'm just going to bold this out so you all can kind of see what I'm doing here. Okay. So the way this is going to look, and remember we talked about this when we did the invoice, what makes it more digestible for the customer? This is so you'll be able to have that conversation with the client. We're doing 15 hours because that was the total. It was 3 hours a day for times 5 days. So that's 15 hours times $20 per hour, because that's what we're charging the client. So that right there is $300. Okay, plus remember they have 1/2 a day that we're working for them, so that's the 4 hours times $25 an hour. And we know that that equals $100. Okay, so when we go back to give a total charge for that week, right? So total weekly charge, it's going to be $300 for the weekdays plus $100 for the weekend. So your weekly total charge is $400. So remember when we talked about invoicing last week, you're either going to present them with a weekly invoice of $400. And remember we had a little note section. You could even put this. This is a wonderful line to put in your invoice. Total weekly charge, $300 for the weekday, $100 for the weekend. Now, if you have a client that you're billing monthly, well, the monthly charge is simply the $400 that we just said times 4, because there's 4 weeks in a month typically. So then that rate is now $1,600. Okay? So we have our weekly charge, we've got our billable hours, we have a separated by the weekday, we have a separated by the weekend. We've combined both hours to give us a final weekly charge or a total weekly charge. And then if we want to convert that to a monthly charge, we just take our monthly total, our weekly total, and then multiply it times 4. Okay, so this is your companion care with weekend rates example. The fourth tip that I have for you is payment methods and then of course handling claims. For our private pay clients, you really want to make sure that you have discussed with them potentially during onboarding any prepaid payments. What does that look like? What does deposits look like? And what happens if they're late? How much is the fee? Right? So just really making sure that that client understands the responsibility associated with just making sure that the client understands the responsibility in making sure that they're paying you and paying you timely. You also want to make sure that any methods are spelled out. So we talked about this earlier. So are they paying ACH? Are they paying credit card? Is there some type of mechanism where you can do a direct deposit, such as now that could be set up through your business account, but then also Zelle payment. Zelle is something we haven't talked about, which I'm not even quite sure because I actually do love Zelle. You want to make sure that you understand how to appropriately use Zelle, because if there's any type of mistake, there are some concerns and considerations with that. So you just want to make sure that you and your client are on the same page as it relates to payments and that method. So I always recommend for my agency owners, come up with some type of collections process, definitely at least at the bare minimum a communications process, because what if a client is late? What is your process? How do you reach out to that client? What do those communications look like? So you really just want to make sure that this is something that you don't tiptoe around, but you address directly, and the client is aware of your processes as it relates to late payments. So any waiver programs, maybe long-term care insurance, things of that nature, you really just want to make sure you understand the authorization process, whatever their billing process is, and then what payment schedule they have. So these are the types of things you want to understand at the same time you're onboarding your client. You don't want to start the service and then try to backtrack and figure it out. Really, from day one, you should have all of those things already figured out. Okay, so we have our final example for this video. And so in this one, we're actually doing hourly personal care services. And so I've already kind of set it up for us today, so it won't be as long as the last example. But this one's a little bit easier because this one, they're actually looking for personal care. So this is assistance with bathing, dressing, grooming, toileting, all of the ADLs. So this one, we're just going to go ahead and say that the rate is $25 an hour. Now, I wanted to mention these rates are me just putting a number out there. You're going to create your rate based on your market research, including what other local agencies are charging around you, and then of course determining what your actual rate will be. So for the purposes of just providing an example, I have come up with the rate of $25 an hour. Okay, now the ask this time is just 4 hours of personal care, and they want that 3 days a week. So for our billing calculation, the billable hours for this example, well, we just said that we were going to do 4 hours a day times 3 days, and that's going to give us 12 billable hours. So what are we charging this client per week? Well, it's 12 hours times $25 an hour, which equals $300. And then again, if you want to know what this weekly rate of $300 yields you, you would just take the weekly charge of $300 times that times 4 weeks, and you get your monthly rate of $1,200. So I truly hope that this has been helpful. I'm going to transition us back over to the video. The last thing that we're going to talk about is common billing challenges and then some solutions for those challenges. The first one we kind of already talked about, but just making sure that our caregivers are turning in their logs, not only timely, but that they're accurate. So just making sure every day that there's some type of way that you can true up what it is the caregiver did for that session. But also in addition to that, when are your time cards due? When are their logs due? So if you're paying them every week or every 2 weeks, when are you looking to see that final log so that you can understand what the billing looks like for the client and then also what the pay looks like for that caregiver? So again, just making sure that you have a process to address making sure that those logs are current, accurate, and timely. Now, a potential solution we already talked about a software that can really integrate care documentation so that you're not waiting for those manual logs to come in. If you're not there yet, then again, you've got to enforce your manual process. However, if you have a solution, if you do have a software solution, then it's just making sure that your processes are integrated into the software. Let's talk about late payments. Late payments is absolutely a concern. It's also a challenge. It does interrupt your cash flow that's coming into your agency. So really just having a process defined in the moment someone is late, what does your process look like? But let's back it up even before then. Are you sending out any reminders? Have you discussed with your client what a reminder looks like? Maybe they want a text message, maybe they want an email. Whatever the case may be, make sure you have some type of mechanism, some type of process to ensure that a person is timely with their payments to your agency. If for whatever reason there's still another late payment, that process should kick in. So what notification has gone out to that client? Have you talked to that client? Has that client communicated with you in terms of what the delay is? So you want to make sure that you are upfront and make sure that you quickly identify these late payments to have those conversations. The third item I want to discuss here is discrepancies in billing. So again, whenever you do create your invoices, and we kind of looked at one earlier today, you want to make sure that that invoice is detailed. You want to make sure that you are letting that customer know, that you are letting your client know up front that this payment that I'm asking for is covering the week of, covering the period of, covering for the following days of services provided. There's no mistake, and as soon as you receive a payment, either close that invoice out or acknowledge it in some kind of way to put that invoice to bed. Okay, because a lot of times what happens and why a person is confused is because in their mind they're going to say, oh, I thought I already paid that. Oh, my invoice doesn't really say, but I know that this was for the week of, right? So you can put all of that to bed by making sure you are naming that you are calling out the service period for which they are being billed. Okay, that was my last tip for the video. So this is where I'm going to look for comments from you all. How did you like this video? Did you like the style of in terms of talking about the tips and then showing some live examples? You all, I would love to hear your feedback. And I do thank you for those of you who reach out to me individually and kind of discuss what you want me to talk about and discuss some tips that you would like to receive from the videos. So I would appreciate you supporting me by liking the video. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so, and then hit that bell notification so that you're notified every time I release a new video. That's all I have for you all today. Stay blessed. I want to talk to you a little bit about Homecare 101. So what I want to make sure everyone aware of, this is not a licensing product. This is really a webinar where we're going to discuss all of the tasks it takes for you to start your business as a home care agency owner. So some of those tasks are, how do I structure my agency? What payroll vendors should I be using? How do I hire my home care aides? What does that onboarding process look like? These are some of the questions that I get as I'm helping you all start your business. So I decided to put that all into one class where we could discuss all of these items. I have created some tools for you to help you along on your home care agency ownership journey, and I'm so excited to share with you. I hope to see you on October 19th.